Let's get into some tape. It's too much fun to watch tape. Let's watch tape. First thing, so you start off the game. They're in 21 personnel. I'm going, oh, I'm gonna love this team. I'm gonna love watching these guys. 21 personnel is my favorite. Got eye backs. They ran a ton of 20. They probably ran more 21 last week than normal because of Aiden O'Connell, the quarterback. But when you watch this offensive line, they do a really good job of staying square. So you're seeing a Green Bay Packers like defense here, base personnel, 3-4 defense. Okay, so they do a really good job staying square. Now they picked up Colton Miller in the first round about 5-6 years ago, and they've done some swapping in and out. They had a really good center in Rodney for years, but their offensive line just isn't certainly not dominant, and they do a very good job of staying square in the run game. In other words, as they rise up, you see here on the first play that I have from scrimmage, you just see the left guard, left tackle do a good job of drive block by the left tackle, but left guard doing a good job of staying square and being able to get push as you see the linebacker shift and the defensive tackle step. This is a good thing. This is, if you're looking at the Raiders tape, this is something you have to watch out for, because you should be able to get tough yards against the 3-4 defense. But then there's this element of, and Dylan Parham he's a young player, third-round pick last year in 2022. And I didn't do a Find the Fish segment this week, and I don't, because I don't think that's fair to any particular player on this team, especially after last week's game. But they can be a lot more physical than they are, and we should be able to take advantage of it as a Green Bay Packers. I think if you're in the Raiders locker room, you got to start talking about, hey, how can we be more physical up front? Is that the demeanor we have? You see 66 on the poll. Look, defensive ends, Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, Mack. These guys are studs. These guys are freak athletes in the National Football League. But you see how this guy just absolutely collapses, right? From a mentality standpoint, like, who's running full speed here? Who's initiating contact? It stood up, ends up making the play in the backfield. And Mac's a special player, but listen, this is the part of the game. If a guy faces you, you got to log him or you got to root him out. You got to do one or the other. You can't take it on the chin. And so you remember a couple games ago, Preston Smith doing the exact same thing against the Saints, and you just think, I always try to see these translations. You group things in your memory. I see that. I feel pretty good about our opportunities in the run game. I think one of the things that happened with Aiden O'Connell is, as you look back, this is before one of his 6 sacks that he gave up. There's nowhere to throw. They played extremely deep last week for the Los Angeles Chargers, talking about the 2 safety looks. They play deep, taking out away the middle underneath routes. Just same thing the Detroit Lions did to us, and they just felt really comfortable about getting home with 4. Right? They might show 6, but they were very comfortable getting home with 4 all day. When you have that 21 personnel, you can get into the play action game, the under center stuff, which is, as anybody who's watched this show, is something I think is one of the best ways to open up the middle of the field, in particular for our NFL offenses. Still, they're going to have these opportunities because they run a ton of this stuff. And it's just a question of, there's so much space because they have burners. Davante Adams is the best receiver in the league, arguably. Jakobi Meyers can absolutely get after it. Hunter Renfro's a pro's pro, runs routes with the best of them. Austin Hooper's done great things at the tight end position for multiple teams in this league. There's a ton of space being created here with this under center stuff. So you're always thinking, as a Green Bay Packer, what are we going to do? Matt LaFleur said we can't play shell coverage all the time. Okay, what I just showed is exactly what you see from the Packers, though. You got 2 deep safeties. We're playing off. The play action, if the linebackers get sucked down in play action, all of a sudden there's a huge vacated spot. Do we want to do that all game against the speed of Davante Adams, the Jakobi Meyers, or do we want to man up one of those guys, bracket coverage? Do we want to see if we can we get home with 4? Are we comfortable playing 6 in the box against their run game, or 7? Using Josh Jacobs, this is one thing that I'm sure they're going to continue to try to find ways to get this guy the ball in the backfield and create opportunities for him to get back out into space. I thought this was a very unique way for them to do it. They essentially running the jet sweep with Josh. Why are they doing this? Because the interior run game, plus side, they stay square. The negative is they get pushed around a lot. I mean, they're only averaging 56, 65 yards per game. So they bring him back in motion here. And this is the kind of stuff that you have to expect to see now when you're trying to force the run game. You have to either get – this is what's crazy about the National Football League. You could either, A, get guys better technically at doing their job, or B, you can scheme out a different way for them to win. They always choose B, right? So you can hang your hat that if a team can't run, like they're an I back, like this is I right. If they can't run a weak side lead here with the fullback, or if they can't run, power to the backside, they're not going to get better at it. They're just not going to run it anymore. They're just going to run. They'll run jet sweep out of this. They'll run a pitch crack. They'll run something else. So when you look at these plays, you see these offensive coordinators getting really creative. It's like, why are you getting creative? It's like, well, our guys can't do what they are supposed to. It's like, well, have you coached them up? The answer is usually yes. The reality is usually maybe not so much. So I say, good job on Suns. You have to attack the line of scrimmage. And I say that because we've had some problems at the linebacker position catching. This is not a team you can catch on because they do have a fullback. And what that means is if you're not having that confrontation at the line of scrimmage, in other words, as soon as you key that fullback, if you're not coming in there and blowing that play up, and you let the fullback get you at the second level, and then Josh Jacobs is getting a full head of steam, and he's trying to get arm tackled by our defensive tackles, you have major, major problems. This guy is a all-pro level running back, had a great season last year. He's strong. He can run through tackles. He is a good, good player. What you have to do is attack the line of scrimmage, as you see against the left guard here. Defensive tackle, push him back into the backfield, force the early cuts. Everybody else has to do their job, have lane discipline. This is it. This is the game. You start talking about what do the Green Bay Packers do well on run defense? Well, I think at the individual level, you have guys. You have Kenny Clark. You have Preston Smith. When Rashawn Gary's in the game, you have Rashawn Gary. TJ Slayton, and he singled up against a center. This center in particular is going to be able to push them into the backfield and force early cuts. Can you get Josh Jacobs to cut before he wants to? You're not going to get him to stop his feet. He's not that kind of running back. He's too good. Can you get him to cut early? Can you get him to stay widening instead of getting downhill, maybe an extra step or two? And then on the backside, do you have lane discipline? Are you able to close things out? Are we able to attack the line of scrimmage and have a confrontation with that linebacker on their side of the football? If you do that, if you shut down this running game, Jimmy Garoppolo or not, I'm sure he's going to be back from concussion protocol. It's a whole different ball of yarn if you don't have a running game to lean on, which the Raiders are finding out already. So all we have to do is continue to do what other teams have had success with. When you make these guys go the distance, and you see last week with Aiden O'Connell, they're throwing a ton of checkdowns, and they have to. You get into these situations, yeah, he can chuck it up against too deep. He can try to chuck it up down the middle here. But the reality is the smart play is for either one of the checkdowns at the 40 or the 44-yard line. And so they're going to make some of these plays. I mean, you got to tackle the ball carrier. You're going to make some plays. But if you make them go the distance and you see how many times the quarterback's getting hit, you just start putting things together and go, I bet you they're going to make a mistake. I'll bet you're going to get pass protection opportunities to sack the quarterback, to get a hit on Jimmy Garoppolo, to get a hit on Aiden O'Connell. I bet they're going to get a holding call. This is one of those games where I think the priority is taking care of Davante and just saying, and making a decision on play one. Are we going to get there with 5 or 6? Are we going to get there with 4? What are we comfortable doing? What's our identity this week? But Davante Adams can't beat the Green Bay Packers this weekend. You look at this, They walk up everybody on the line of scrimmage. They're going to drop a bunch of these guys, but it doesn't matter because the damage is done from an ID standpoint. They only rushed 4. This is the play that they had. That's the play they got Mac on. We got another one here. They're under center, 12 personnel, 2 in the backfield. And Mac just walks back Colton Miller. And this is my new, let's go to Vegas. Now, I wish they, on BetOnline AG, I wish they had this. They show you a screenshot of an offensive lineman sitting against a good player. And you just have to, you get to bet. Is he going to give up a sack, a pressure, or is it going to be clean? This is a lineman's dream. This is like an offensive, defensive lineman's dream, a coach's dream. Can we place a bet right here? Your hands are out wide. You're set. You're flat set. You're going against Alex Mack, Khalil Mack. Wonder what's going to happen here. I bet he gets hit, right? Bad technique, gets exploited. Inside press with that inside hand. Great play by Mack. Was there all day. You know, some people say, oh, it's a rookie quarterback. He didn't feel the pressure. That's coming pretty fast, guys. I see here 72 is playing two-hand touch. You forgot this is tackle football. You always bet on Max. Excuse me, on Mack. Khalil Mack was having himself a day against the Raiders. And you just never know from an offensive line standpoint. You just saw what happened to Evan Neal and the New York Giants and all the trash that he was. What an unfortunate situation for a guy who's just really struggled since day one. But you don't recover sometimes from this stuff. I can tell you firsthand, man. You give up 3 sacks in a game, it's tough to recover from. I mean, you look at that. Mack doesn't even get 10 yards deep and just absolutely beats him like around the entire corner, right? Because you're just playing two-hand touch. This is a violent sport, guys. Take advantage. Rashawn Gary's going to see that and lick his chops. The only difference here is that, you know, for me, Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback. And I don't know if he's top 10. I don't know if he's top 50. He's a good quarterback. The guy's won everywhere he's been. I mean, this is the most difficult scenario, situation he's been into. Obviously, not being with Shanahan right now, but he's reunited with Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels, head coach, is different than offensive coordinator, but he had a lot of success in his 2 prior spots. But this guy is a good quarterback, and, you know, he's smart. You find your good player, and you throw him the ball. Davante Adams is on the field. Give us a reason to get Davante Adams the ball. And so the only other thing is, while we all want to see this matchup, this Jair Alexander and Davante matchup, got to keep it professional in it this week. This isn't a personal thing. Davante's not here anymore. He was a great player for this team. He was probably a great person in that locker room. Keep it professional, man. It's about shutting this guy down. It's about making sure he doesn't beat us. It's not about you showing him up or vice versa, right? You got to know where this guy is all the time. He's just a special, special player. He runs exquisite routes. And we're going to be in Vegas on Monday night. This is a 4th and 1 play. This is how you play ball in Vegas, guys. 4th and 1. Everybody sells out. Just drop a dime to your best player.